So the idea is to find measurement scales for concepts you use. Concepts are the variables that you use in your conceptual model, which you want to test. Antecedents, that is factors that influence a phenomenon. And consequences, factors that are influenced by the independent explanatory variables, like, for example, intention to use, like intention to recommend a product, like attitudes, like the fact of doing word of mouth. So the large number of dependent variables on which you can think about. And there's one very nice book, which is a collection of all measurement scales coming from research articles. So it makes your life easier because you don't have to look individually for all scales in all articles. And so it's a collection of to add the new measurement scales for a large number of concepts which are relevant in marketing. So this book is called Handbook of Marketing Scales. There's one new edition that was published 2019 with the most recent scales. Because as you can understand, in marketing research, new concepts emerge. The basic TEM model was based only on ease of use and perceived usefulness. But we have seen that the model evolved and a lot of other factors were introduced due to changes of environment, due to changes of consumers, due to changes of technologies. So in other words, what we saw from TEM to UTI-UT, other factors were introduced. So for example, hedonistic benefits, but also facilitating conditions, social factors that influence technology acceptance. And from UTI-UT 1 to 2, other factors were added. And from UTI-UT 2 to the most recent technology acceptance model, for example, for AI, autonomous cars, smart homes, factors like privacy concerns were introduced, technology fear, trust into technology, and isolation, because technology can also isolate us, above all social media, or augmented reality, virtual reality, makes us dive more and more in a virtual world where we can find negative side effects, such as isolation, but also addiction. So you see, since the early beginning of technology acceptance research, these models have been enhanced with relevant variables, which are absolutely adapted according to the actual consumption behavior. So because users change, because of laws, and above all, because of new technologies, which changed our life and which changed also marketing. And that is why these scales, and not only in technology, there are a lot of other fields in marketing, and in your thesis on customer relationship management, or advertising efficiency, or consumer behavior, or business-to-business marketing, or strategic marketing, or international marketing, digital marketing. It's very segmented, which means that when you're searching your research topic, then that is why we have this book. So you can see it's actually a lot of concepts which are measured in marketing. For example, here, effective response. What is an effective response? So it can be interesting for technology acceptance, because effective are emotions. So how do we react to technologies? Frustration, it's an effect. Joy, it's an effect. So it might be interesting to have a look at these effective responses. And you can see here, research about effective responses has above all been done in advertising research. A lot of work has been done to see how we react if we can create effective emotions when we see an advertisement. And why do I show you this book? Because you find here exactly the measurement instruments that you might use for your research. And so, and you can see, attitudes towards advertisement. Most of the concepts we are searching for can be found here. Here we have behavioral intention to buy a brand, for example. Commitment to the brand, it's another very important dependent variable in marketing. Before buying or becoming loyal, customers commit to a brand. That is, they start to like the brand. So it's a kind of brand effectiveness. You can see here also congruence. Is the technology congruent with ourselves? You can see here coping strategies, and these are actually strategies, reactions to rather more dissatisfaction, credibility, ease of use. We have also perceived justice. And this is something which is very important in relationship marketing. Do we perceive that the firm is treating us fair? Shopping enjoyment, hedonism, switching costs. There might be switching costs to switch from one technology because of technology standards. If I'm used to work with Android, then there are switching costs to switch to iOS or vice versa. Satisfaction, loyalty, purchase intentions. And so we have actually measurement instruments for most of the established concepts we have in marketing. For example, aesthetic appeal, about chatbot adoption. So we measured the aesthetic appeal of a chatbot. You have the scale origin. So it was developed by Bloch, Ridgway, and Dawes in 1994. You have the references, and you have the scale items. These scale items are standardized. So if we want to measure, this is what we did for the chatbot adoption, we have to adapt. So this is rather more for the interior design of store one attracts my attention. The colors in the interiors attract my attention. So the scale is perhaps not really well fitting, but in any case, we could adapt. We could say, instead of saying the interior design of, we could say the design of the chatbot attracts my attention. I notice that the colors is attractive. I would say that this scale is perhaps not the best one. There's another one. You can see here again, it comes from Journal of Retailing and so A journals. This is also what I also recommend. Always choose, if you can, the best scales. That is scales coming from A+ and A journals. So here we have some items that characterize aesthetics. So for example, this chat box looks offensive, enjoyable. Poor looking, nice looking. Displeasing, pleasing. On a scale between 1 to 7. 1 means offensive. 7 means enjoyable. 1 means unattractive. 7 means attractive. So bad appearance, good appearance, ugly, beautiful. When we are talking about a measurement scale, so you have to look at the items, to the scale, and look to the items if they fit. In a lot of cases, you have to adapt to them. Here in this case for the chatbot adoption, this scale perfectly fitted to our context. Here is the scale. Ease of use will be complicated, will be simple, will take a lot of effort, will take little effort, will be confusing, will be clear, will take a long time, will take a short time. So this scale is a good scale because it comes from Journal of Consumer Research and GEMS. So we could use it. The choice is guided by first the quality of the journal and second, the recency. So if you find scales which are more recent, then it's better. And also the number of times these scales are used, because you can find it also then in the citations of the scale. So when starting to search now the scales, and so I would recommend you to, there's this book where you can find actually most of the concept. This is one handbook of marketing scales, but there's another mean how you can find the scales. And this is what I will show you now, because these scales are coming from the articles. Normally you should find the scales they use in the part of the methodology. Either they should have the scales at the end in the appendix, here in the appendix part, and here are the scales: performance expectancy, 4 items, effort expectancy, social influence, facilitating conditions, hedonic motivation, is fun, enjoyable, and entertaining, habits, behavioral intention. We are working on a technology that does not exist. So then we have to adapt the questions and can say, I intend to use delivery drones in the future, or I will try to use delivery drones in my daily life. And I plan to use delivery drones frequently. So perhaps you're now wondering why these items might appear a little bit repetitive, right? Why do we have different items? We could also say, to make it easy, we only use one item. But we cannot, because actually, when measuring a phenomenon, we need, and this is what you will see in the course, business research. So that's why I won't really explain it now. in order to have reliable measurement instruments, we need different items. It's in order to ensure that our measurement instrument, our scale, really measures the phenomenon we want. And there are indicators that we can calculate, namely we call them reliability indicators. We'll hear it later, Cronbach alpha. It's an indicator that you can only calculate with different items. That is why these scales generally reflect different facets of the phenomenon and set differently. So we cannot say now we scratch 2 items and only use 1 item. And that's perhaps a question you might wonder when you see that these different items. No, we cannot. But what we can do is actually, okay, we have most of these items have 3 or 4. We can say if one item is really not fitting to our context, then we can scratch this item. But overall, we should leave the scales as untouched as possible and only change the sense to adapt it to our technology. For example, effort expectancy, here it's quite easy to adapt. Learning how to use delivery drones would be easy for me. You have also to pay attention to adapt it to the conditional. Nobody has experienced it yet, so we have to adapt. Learning how to use the delivery drone would be easy for me. My interaction with the delivery drone would be clear and understandable. I would find it easy to use delivery drones. It would be easy for me to become skillful at using delivery drones. Performance expectancy, I would find delivery drones useful in my daily life. Using delivery drones would increase my chances of achieving things that are important to me. Using delivery drones would help me to accomplish things more quickly. Using delivery drones would increase my productivity. Let's take another example. This is TEM2. So you have the measurement scale in the appendix. This is also what I recommend when you're writing your article. These are technical details which make difficult to read the article. And that is why all these technical details in your article should be put at the end. And you can see here are these reliability indexes, which are called Cronbach alpha, and they should be higher than 0.7. This is what you will learn. Once you have collected your data, you will see how you can optimize, because sometimes you will see that the items do not fit. Then you might have to drop some items. But this is what you will see when you're working precisely on your own data, how to optimize the reliability of a concept. Let's take another example that you can find here in the scales: performance expectancy, facilitating conditions, anxiety. I would have concerns about using delivery drones. The delivery drone would be frightening to me. I'm afraid that I would not understand the delivery drone. Perceived safety, I believe that using the delivery drone would be dangerous. I would feel safe while using the delivery drone. I would trust the delivery drone. Perceived safety, there's a reference, 18. I will have a look at the end of the article to see what article it is. I'll go to the reference section. 18, Oswald, proceeding in Auto UL. Here we have an interesting example. So it's a conference proceeding, so it's not a very good support of publication. So if I have the choice now, I would rather search for other scales. If I have alternative scales, I would rather not use this kind of publication, because there are certainly more renamed journals, which are at least a C, even better a B or A journal. That is why I would not use this scale to measure. That's why when you find few publications, you can use actually better publications. As there are few references, you might use that. Pavlu is one of them. Blockbusters about privacy concerns. And so he has written an article in International Journal of Electronic Commerce. It's a B journal. So he measures perceived risk, trust, usefulness, ease of use. So a TEM plus risk and trust model. He has the hypothesis development. And we go to the methodology. Perceived risk is conceptualized as an economic risk. When I buy a new car, a new technology, then I have also economic risk. If I adopt a new standard, which won't be the standard later, I can lose everything. And so there's economic risk and the loss of money, personal risk, and so that the risk for physics, that I'm potentially harmed by the products, and the privacy risk. That is that we lose our privacy because of too much information. And the seller performance risk is that actually that the product is not really satisfying us in terms of the product performance. But risk is much larger. There can be also now the psychological risk, that is the uncertainty that the delivery drone won't come to us at home. The psychological risk might also be that the product comes too late. A lot of products aim at reducing psychological risk. Above all, services. Services aims at reducing our psychological risk when we buy a product. For example, warranties, money-back guarantees have the aim to reduce our perceived risk. So the constructs are shown in appendix. So you see here are the different scales: perceived risk, perceived usefulness, use of everything is there. What I would really recommend, you have to cite the scales in your article. Put always the name of the authors, where it comes from. Right? I would always make this kind of table where you put in the first column authors, where the scale comes from, then the concept, the variable, and the items, and testing your reliability. Put there then the chronology.